people could just go and adopt a child without going through the foster care system first, I think 99% of us would. Why would anybody go overseas if we had kids right here that you could just adopt? But it's not that easy. You can't do that.
Adoption shouldn't just be for people that have a lot of resources. It should be something that any family that has the desire and can offer the child a good home should be able to do.
We didn't limit it by sex, we said boy or girl. And we were willing to take handicapped special needs of all different types.
We have a very hard time placing medically fragile children and children with special needs. And oftentimes kids with disabilities end up going to group homes or residential treatment centers because we don't have the resources to meet their needs.
One of the biggest obstacles to domestic adoption or foster adoption would be reunification with the birth family. Specifically foster adopt, many times you'll have a child in their home and you'll still be taking them to visits with their birth family.
You get negative comments from family, friends, even churches who just feel, why would you go overseas when there's children right here? There's that misunderstanding that you can just go adopt a child here.
Would you rather them be 2 or 3 in a room, you know, and have a loving family and stability and a future? Or do you want them to stay in the orphanage?
We put up as big a fight as we could. Her case was transferred from one social worker to another. So it just kind of felt like all of the support system that we had built up during the 5.5 months we had her had been kind of swept away.
Currently, I think it's safe to say that we don't have enough resources to meet the needs of the kids in the system.
I think my family thought, you've adopted, why do it again? You were lucky getting 2 great kids. And they felt like, why push it? We fly to Siberia, and we'll see Daniel before court, and then we'll see him after court. And it's been quite a ride to get here.
Are you nervous about seeing him?
Yeah. I'm very nervous.
Do you think he's going to recognize you?
Probably not. I haven't seen him since October. That was my first trip. And, you know, until you get these kids home, you have no idea what you're going to get. And it's a crapshoot, just like it is giving birth. And we'll see if I survive the flight. I hope I don't sit next to that baby. I mean, I love babies, but I just like my babies more than other people's babies. I mean, once I adopt them, they become mine, but I just don't want to sit next to a crying infant. You know, it really is daunting. I don't know how people do it because I don't have the best attitude about it when there's so many kids that would love me or love anybody to love them, that it's just so hard to get them home. I'm glad to be off the plane. You know, it's happening. So that's, so we'll see. Just tell me what time that you'd like me to be at the medical appointment, and I will ask, I guess Vladimir picks me up. I wanted to adopt from Russia because I am part Russian and I feel a huge pull towards this culture. It never made sense why all over the world there are so many children growing up with nothing. You will pick me up for the medical appointment at the hotel? Okay. The little dolphin, the little whales blowing were so cute. And I just thought it looked cute and blue. Ay. But these are size 12 months. So, you think they'll fit him?
I think so.
Anyway.
They're adorable.
Yeah, look at these. Just, he's so tiny. So tiny.
Good afternoon, God's Waiting Children. This is Laurel. Most people who are doing international adoption are doing it because either A, they've traveled to the country and they have a heart for the kids in that country, or B, because they want the adoption to be final before they bring the child into their home. In countries such as Kazakhstan or Ukraine, where we work, the adoption actually happens overseas. It doesn't happen here in the U.S.
I don't know how they got this, but we were considering 2 children
instead of our one little girl. So,
and then we got disconnected, and of course there was a lot of anxiety in the air at home.
This family is from Madison, Wisconsin. They have 3 biological children at home. How are your kids holding up without you?
That's tough. I think they're doing. My sister's she's an excellent mom, and she has them in a routine. Kaylee kind of lost it yesterday. On their way into town, she cried and wanted us, but it sounds like they're doing pretty well overall.
She sells nutritional products out of her home. He's a full-time police officer, works at a high school. I got confirmation from DHL, and Igor emailed me and said he has it and it looks perfect. So you should be in great shape
good.
tomorrow.
That's a big relief.
Yep. Well, do you have any last-minute questions for me before your appointment tomorrow? They're in Kyiv. From tomorrow on, they're going to be there 4 to 6 weeks. But one of them will be able to come home to their children as soon as they go to court. Court's usually about 2 weeks into it from tomorrow. So Lisa will most likely be coming home within 2 weeks, and Jesse will stay. We have somebody with them pretty much 24/7 that helps them through the process, tells them where to be, what the next step is, where to sign, what they need to do. They make all the arrangements for their train and their apartment and the driver and the taxi. And if they need to, if it's customary to pay an orphanage donation, the facilitator will let them know how much and what that's for.
Did you ever hear from that other foundation?
I did. I got an email back saying that they were evaluating you tomorrow, Tuesday, and that they would get back to us. Most of our families do not have $30,000 that they can just write a check to adopt. Most of our families do fundraising. The fundraising usually takes anywhere from 6 months to sometimes a year.
Okay, did any other donations come in?
Hang on one second. I have to look. There's lots of grant organizations out there. They've received a couple great ones so far, 2 really good ones. One was $5,000 and one was $3,500. And they're hoping to get one more while they're over there. They did car washes, events at their church, fundraising dinner. I think they sold t-shirts, anything to raise the money to go do the adoption. All right, well, you guys go to bed. I need you to get a good night's sleep before tomorrow.
Okay.
Copy. Take care, Laura.
Okay, thanks, you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I want you guys to play outside for a while. We're not going to have TV or Xbox or computer time right now. So don't keep coming in.
Christine, how long before dinner?
At least half an hour.
Wasn't that great, Cannibal?
Adam, Caleb, Julia, William, Andrew, Johnny, Anya, and Svieta, Annalyn, then we did Rachel, then we did Dennis, and then Alex, and then Paul and Anastasia. And I'm positive that was all 14. I live in the moment. When I have visions of my kids 10 years from now, probably a lot of them are having children at that point. And so There's the opportunity to have 144 grandchildren.
John, if he's done, I'm gonna take him back upstairs and get a diaper on him.
When we first even thought about adopting children, we had 6 children and a nice 4-bedroom house in Reedley. The 4 bedrooms being the master bedroom, and then we had 6 children for the other 3. When we went to adopt domestically, we were told actually we couldn't because our house wasn't big enough.
Do you want bread and butter or no?
Yes, please.
The international adoptions where the children are in an orphanage with 12 beds in one room or 24 beds in one room, they don't have that rule. Andrew, what did you do today?
I played some computer. I watched SpongeBob, and I made this huge tower with the block.
Oh, Mom, I did not tell you this, but I organized all the cups in there and all the plates and all the pots and
I
pans.
noticed all the pots and pans.
It doesn't make any sense to me, really, given the fact that a lot of the local kids would be far better off in a room like this with 3 beds and loving brothers, sisters, and parents than they would be in whatever current situation they are in.
We can. Isaac's kind of running around like his head is cut off like a chicken. The backyard is really the reason we bought this property, because we wanted to have room to be able to add on to the house as God led us to continue adopting and growing our family.
We've been married for 13 years.
We hadn't gotten pregnant the first 9 years of our marriage, and
it was never in my thought process that we would go very far with infertility.
Let's start with your name at the top. You need to trace what Mommy wrote for you.
I already know how to do my name.
Okay, trace it. After having pursued what was exactly medically wrong with us as a couple, we decided to pursue the adoption process.
So to pursue adoption, we looked at the options, and foster care and foster adoption were the option that we chose. And that's how we got started with our family.
And for us, the primary reason was financial. We didn't feel led to go into a great deal of debt or to save for the next 10 years in order to be able to pursue adoption. We'd already been married 9 years, and we knew that we were ready for our family at that point. That's why foster adopt made the most sense, is because once you're done with the home study and screening process, the training, then you can potentially have a child in your home the next day. And we did. Within a week of getting licensed with the county, we had our first placement. So that's how quickly it happened for us. But now I want you to take a bite of the green apple. The green one. Take a bite of the green one. Does it taste the same as the red one? No. How does it taste different?
Sour.
Sour.
I want to eat it all gone.
Okay, you can eat it all gone. Allie came to us at 9.5 months old. Make sure you make the circle bigger. It has to go all the way from the middle line to the bottom line, okay? She was a 9.5-month-old infant who had been severely neglected and malnourished, and she was also drug exposed pre-birth. Many of her older siblings had already been adopted, and so she went up for adoption as well.
Mom, where are these?
That's a sea star, or starfish, but we call them sea stars. So then we went back on the foster adopt list, and we got a call for Isaac. He was drug exposed to methamphetamines, but he did have a lot of health issues as an infant.
I think one of the reasons to take care of special needs children is because they need a family. They need someone that loves them and can take care of them and provide them a loving, caring home. That's the reason we do foster care, whether they stay for one night or we keep them forever.
Children are so resilient, and given just a little love, given a little stability and a little peace, they can flourish and bloom and become amazing people.
The brunt of what Child Welfare Service does is trying to strengthen the family of origin, the biological family. And if that is not possible, where the child can remain home and live safely, then we look for an alternative permanent plan, with adoption being number one choice. So really, we need families who are willing to work through the reunification process, but would consider adoption if in the event the child's not able to go home, which is a very difficult thing for some people to do.
I have 2 biological kids and 4 foster kids.
The current foster children right now, we have 1 natural, and 1 biological, and 1 adopted.
So we try to recruit people who understand that, you know, it's in the best interest for children to be with their own families. However, are willing to adopt if that's not possible.
How do you think that affects you emotionally during that year and a half when you're trying to parent and you're waiting?
Well, be careful. Don't make the connection. Of course, next day it's too late. You're already there. So.
Yeah, they definitely have attachment and bonding issues. But the bonding issue is that the person that they've been bonding to for the first 7 months of their life is just completely ripped away.
Yeah.
And that relationship is not valued at all by the system.
Foster parents, they love the children, they care for them as their own, and then about 56% of the time they go back home. Now, who deals with the foster parents and their sadness, their grief when the child goes back home?
I bonded and I got very close to this child, and as did my family and everyone, friends. And I had her for 11 months in my home, from 17 months on. And it was basically the 11th hour that I couldn't believe it, that the judge decided, much to our dismay and surprise, he did end up returning the child to the birth mother. That was a heartbreaker, and I said, never again. I can't do this again.
Parents are given the opportunity in court up to 18 months to demonstrate to the court that they have the ability to meet the needs of their child. And if that's not possible, that's when we look for alternative care. And the reason why the court gives a cutoff date for parents is because stability and permanence is so important to kids that the court recognizes that if this parent is not going to be able to parent, then we have to find alternative arrangements for that child.
We receive a phone call, a tone of desperation in the caseworker's voice. We have a baby, but I need to talk to you about the clinical side of the story. Double depressed skull fractures, brain hemorrhage, 2 broken ribs, impacted palate, torn mouth. The kid had been thoroughly beaten up. Can you imagine the head of a boxer on the body of an Auschwitz survivor? That's basically the picture. He was not looking good. And nobody wanted to take him.
The goal of foster care is to reunite this family. This is the goal. And so we say that up front, but immediately we have people take offense going, you want me to give that baby back to that family that abused them.
Exactly.
The goal of foster care is to get them back to the family. The goal, and that's the point of foster care, is get them back to their birth family. As a trainer, my heart breaks every time, because I can't say, well, I told you so. That's the goal of foster care. What does that mean when your heart breaks, you know?
Right, because then we need to look at what the goal of foster care is, right? I mean, if the goal of foster care switches to finding the healthiest, happiest situation for that child and supporting that child with all of the people who are involved in foster care
would look very different.
It would look very different.
So yeah, it can get really difficult for foster parents. That's what part of the training is about, is training foster parents that this is what you're going to be getting into. This is what the court does. This is what we're looking for in biological parents to return kids back, etc. So that they understand what they're getting into. But yeah, it can be very painful to care for a child like your own and then return them into a situation that you believe to be not stable or maybe possibly unsafe for the child.
I was told to run X amount of dollars, and not to discuss it with my coordinator.
46,500. Yeah. Shane, do you have 100 rubles to give him charge?
I think so, yeah.
Everyone here so far has been pleasant, but there is a lot of money exchanging hands.
46,500.
Every single person involved in this adoption, with the exception of the judge, as far as I know, is getting money from me.
And does that guy, I mean, that's his professional job? Is he sort of a money exchanger on the street kind of thing? Mm-hmm. And you know him, kind of?
Yeah, usually we are changing money with him.
Why, does he give a better rate than the bank?
Yeah.
It almost feels like a business transaction, except that, these are kids. I adopted another special needs child that came home the summer of 2004 from Kazakhstan. There was a point that I was told by his adoption coordinator in Kazakhstan that he had been measured for his coffin. He had a shattered skull and a paralyzed arm, and he had some right side paralysis, and basically with his shattered skull, his country really didn't know how to fix him, and they never thought in their wildest dreams that anyone else would want him. Nobody wants the special needs kids, and I start thinking that they're treated like garbage, and I have loved being the parent of a child with physical differences. It's just brought me so much joy. I wasn't raised to walk away when something bothered me. I was interviewed by a psychiatrist, by a dermatologist, by a general practitioner, an oncologist, a few. I'm not even sure why they were interviewing me. They didn't really say what kind of doctors they were. For Russia, I needed a personality test given by a psychiatrist, so that was really weird. And some of the questions on a personality test, I couldn't figure out how to answer them. The thing about the adoption experience for me is the total loss of control. I cannot control any of what happens except that I just have to go along with the program. And that's a hard one. It's a hard one.
You gotta get the Russian summer snow going. See this stuff?
Travel light. I am. No, it's okay. Thank you.
Oh, look at you. You got your little guy.
Daniel is a little red hair, brown eyed, teeny little guy. He is probably the size of a 2-year-old, and he has been in the orphanage system since he was born.
Really likes it. Does he have the chicken pox? Yeah, Buddy had him too. Look at his looks like
I think that it is a bruise, and on this side these are mosquitoes biting. And he has very tender skin because he is red.
And he came in and he came and sat on my lap, and oh my God, I just melted. But at the same time, I could see that he had a lot of sores and cuts all over his face, and he did not look like he had gained an ounce since 8 months earlier, and that was very upsetting to see. That was the way it was with my son Marat. I mean, he had a shattered skull, and there was no money for anything. That's just the orphanage system. The bloody nose and this is new, so I'm not sure if he just isn't stable on his feet. You're very hungry.
Don't overfeed him. He will eat the whole.
Do you know anything about his family health? It was amazing to see him. I was so happy to see him. It just felt like such a long journey before I got to come back. We're in one city, in one baby orphanage. And there are so many others all over the world, and it just doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense that in the time that we live, that there's all these kids just warehoused, just thrown away like they're just garbage. And if he's not adopted soon, I mean, Lord forbid, he not get to come home with me, he's not gonna make it.
This is my mom putting on the Dennis sticker for our van.
My wonderful friend Michelle gave us it to add. She's made the whole sticker for us.
I could hardly contain my excitement.
How many seconds have we been filming?
25.
Okay. Dun 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 dun. There we go.
We were trying to get a baby. We were trying to get the youngest possible, and special needs were going to be okay. When it came to Dennis's time for adoption, it was definitely a choice of special needs. The first adoptions of Anya and Svieta were not necessary. We
We're open.
we were open, but they actually came with some special needs, and being able to work within those certainly made us open for adopting a child like Dennis.
Somebody had went over prior to us adopting Dennis, and the child they were adopting was in the same room as Dennis. They were like roommates, their cribs right next to each other, and
Which is like an infirmary. It was a real medically sequestered room, very different from where the 12-bed children are kept.
Yeah.
This was for very young with big medical issues.
yeah, where they don't let them out with the group outside. He was so white. His skin was so fair, like he's never seen the sun.
Yeah.
We would take him out, and the first time his eyes would be like this because it just took so long for him to get used to the sunlight. Hello. Can I clean your eye?
Daddy.
Daddy will come down in a minute. Okay. Put your head back.
Good boy, Dennis.
Behind the eye, he had his eyeball, and because it was atrophied, they basically cut the blue part and then scooped out the inside instead of removing the whole eye, so that this could move a little bit. It keeps it, out instead of sinking in. Kind of like when you have dentures. If you don't have dentures, your teeth and your gums kind of go in. So you need to have your teeth there to keep your chin out and your lips out. Thank you. Oh, ooh. You want to go play with that?
Yeah.
We were told that he was sliced by his birth mother at 3 or 4 days old, and the picture seemed consistent to it. And the orphanage told us that it was a birth defect. We were in a state of confusion. We had kind of accepted that it was an abuse thing that we were, helping, and then it was a birth defect, and then we were thinking, are they not even being honest with us?
You're Dennis Reed? How old are you?
4.
You're 4?
Yeah.
Amniotic banding syndrome. In the womb, when the child is developing, it's like placenta strands. It's almost like a string, just free floating in the amniotic fluid, and it gets tangled around a baby at different stages. And this happened to almost get caught up on an ear, kind of go across the eye, the mouth. It caused a cleft palate inside because when everything was forming, it just formed wrong.
He's had his cleft palate repaired. He's had his upper lip repaired. He's had the huge scar from ear to mouth repaired. He's had some eye work where his eyelids were stuck completely wide open with a ball
Inside
of
out.
tissue. He's had the eyeball removed from that eyeball and the eyelashes closed a bit, a prosthetic eye, some back of the head patching done for skin graft purposes.
He has a lot more ahead of him. And so he has 10 fingers, 10 toes. And he is very bright. Didn't affect his mind in any sense.
Alex, what are you excited about riding in a couple of days? What are you going to get on and ride to school?
Bus.
A bus, huh?
Me.
I don't think you're going to ride a bus yet. Next year. Dennis. Hey. When you go to kindergarten, you'll ride a bus. Okay? But you'll ride in Mama's big white bus, okay? How about that? High five? Mama's big white bus? Yeah?
I'm gonna go your bus.
As a kid, the orphanages could seem kind of fun. The kids are happy as kids kind of are, but what's not happy when you're there is the realization that after a certain age, they must leave that home and they're either put into this kind of institution or this kind of institution,
or on the
based
streets.
on their brain power, or on the streets when that cycle will continue.
Eva was a severely medically fragile infant. She was born at 23 weeks gestation, and she weighed 1 pound 9 ounces at birth. She was exposed to meth and marijuana, and she was in Children's Hospital for the first 2.5 months of her life before she was placed in our home at just prior to 3 months of age. When she was placed with us, she had oxygen tank, apnea heart monitor, medications for reflux, and special dietary needs. We knew that Eva's grandparents wanted to be involved in her life from the beginning, but felt extremely undereducated in caring for a special needs child. They were really afraid of all of the medical equipment and the requirements on the caregiver at that point. When she came off the oxygen, however, they decided that they wanted to take her home and raise her with her brother that was about 18 months older, and they already had him in their home.
This is still giving her bath. I just got all of the tubes off of her and picked her up, and it was the first time I think I held her just kind of free without all of the tubes and wires and everything on her. And giving her kisses. And here she is after her bath, all hooked up to everything again, and she has all of her tubes back in place, eating her bottle. She was 2.5 months old, but still wore preemie clothing. She was very tiny.
They called and left a voicemail on my cell phone while I was in court, saying for me just to pack up all of the baby's belongings and bring her to the next day's visitation and just say goodbye at that point. If a child is placed in your home for 6 months, then you can petition the court for rights to advocate for that child. But as a foster parent, you have no right unless you've bonded and had that child in your home for at least 6 months. And she was only here for 5.5 months. We called everyone and we begged for them to listen to our plea that we had bonded with her. She was in a secure, safe, nurturing environment where she was thriving. None of the doctors expected her to be doing as well as she was doing at 8 months old when she left us. She was doing really, really well. And I just feared that her grandparents' unwillingness to take her when she was at her worst, it didn't bode well for a long-term commitment in my mind. To me, adopting a child is rather like a marriage, and you take the good with the bad, the sick with the healthy, and you don't get to pick to just parent on the good days. You need to be there for all of them. But honestly, after having been through, it was probably a good 4 weeks worth of petitioning and meeting and emailing and begging to keep her, I just couldn't do it anymore. I knew that they were going to move her no matter what I did. And I couldn't keep her for another 7 days knowing that they were going to take her from us. It's just too hard. So we forfeit our 7-day notice and turned her over to her grandparents at the visit the following day. I just want her back. Even now, 6 months later, I pray every day that God would just remove the love I have for her or bring her home, because it's still painful, even 6 months later, and we didn't even have her in our home for 6 months, and it's still painful.
This is not Claudette's story. This is our Hughes family story. It affects our whole family.
She was actually the first child other than Allie that Isaac ever bonded with. And so her leaving has traumatized him quite a bit, to the point of crying for her throughout the night. That's the hard part, is watching him hurt. I'm an adult and I make the decision to do this. And I put my heart out there and I'm at risk. But I make that decision for myself. And involving my children in this process and allowing them to feel that kind of pain is something that I feel I can't put them in that position again at this time. Due to their age and their sensitivity, at this time we're pursuing adoption only. We're not doing foster care again.
I'm sweating like a pig, but we just finished court and they gave me Daniel and they let me adopt him. And it was, it's a little nerve-wracking. They go through everything, but I got him and his name is now Daniel Adam Rubin. Jump through what you have to jump through in order for you to get what you want. I was willing to do that. For me, I guess I always look at it from the underdog's position. When I look at adopting, I think, what child would have the hardest time finding a family? And I know that Daniel had been turned down once or twice before. It's been hard, you know, it's always hard. I'm not married, so it's not like I have this partner that's wanting to share the whole thing with me. Daniel is a character. He's just got this funny little personality that people respond to. He does have some issues. You know, he's very developmentally delayed. I'm getting him evaluated by the counties to see, you know, what services they feel he'd qualify for, to try to get him, you know, talking and to get him healthy and to, you know, get him ready for kindergarten. Adoption is scary, especially for people that aren't the ones doing it. You hear a lot of bad press about adoption and how messed up the kids are and how they're not salvageable and how they're not going to be okay. And I did a lot of education before I pursued adoption. And I think if you're interested in adoption, you know, you have to take your time and make sure that you're making choices that you can live with. You know, right now, I'm not going to adopt again. But if you ask me a year or two down the road, I don't know what I would say. I mean, it's hard to go to the orphanages and to know that you can change somebody's life just by wanting to.
Having fun?
When we first adopted in 2005, I really didn't know that there were blogs, that there were adoption groups, that there was any support out there. I just felt like there wasn't a connection with other families who were in the same boat as us. And it was really lonely, so I thought I'd start a blog and that would help me to get in touch with other adoptive families. And blog about, you know, what we've gone through with Dennis. When he first came home, you know, he was very much a baby. He was not even 2 years old, could barely walk, couldn't feed himself, cried, wanted to be held, drank a bottle. And now 2 years later, he's 3 years old and he's so independent. That has been a huge blessing for others and for us to go back and see what he was like when we first brought him home to how he is today. The most criticism I've gotten is because Alex and Dennis are internationally adopted with special needs. Therefore, people think that they're going to be a drain on our society. And so we've gotten a lot of criticism, lashing out just to be mean. They were making fun of Alex and Dennis when I posted cute pictures of them having eaten spaghetti. And they come on and they say, you know, 'cause I asked, what does it look like they've eaten? And they said, what else? Spaghetti. It is cheap to fix and feed a family of 14 with crap like that. More fun you have to clean up after them and probably will till the day you die. Stupid me announced on our blog, you know, the days that we were going up to Valley Children's. Mainly to ask for prayer because there were some early on procedures, surgeries, you know, visits that were really going to require a lot of work for Dennis, you know, to have done. And we're paying for these visits through our private insurance. You know, I'm driving them, I'm finding the sitters to watch my other kids. You know, it's not that there should be no reason for somebody to be negative about that. And yet when we were done with our visit and I walked back out to my car with all my kids, we found a note on my car. And I was really shocked to find out it was like a piece of hate mail. And I've kept it. It says, you are addicted to adoption. No one wants to see you and your litter of kids coming. Try adopting American children. You can't even take care of what you have. This Christian bull is carried way too far. You are a phony. B-I-T-C-H. I think I needed it to be a reminder that I need to be diligent to protect my kids. I need to be diligent to make sure that they're safe and they're having the life that they deserve to have. I think as my kids are getting older and they're going to start noticing, you know, those kinds of reactions from people, I think it's my duty that I need to step up and say something. And I just haven't quite come to terms with that yet because I don't know how I'm going to respond. I know I need to respond in love, but that's not always my initial reaction. I hadn't really prepared myself for the reaction from others, from other adults, you know, from other children, people being so cruel. You know, I could take it. I'm a big girl, and for the most part, those could roll off my shoulders. When they start attacking my children, and it's not just my children, it's almost like they come looking to attack any family with internationally adopted children. And if they happen to have special needs, watch out because they're going to be attacked even more. You got to kind of expect that not everybody is going to see him like we do, but I think some should be a little bit, you know, more sympathetic, you know, towards him, to know that he shouldn't be looked at as you know, as anybody different than a sweet little boy. You should kind of expect that.
It's their loss. You know, if they don't want to enjoy him as the great boy he is, it's really their loss.
And so most of the time for me, I bite my tongue.
Ready? That's cute.
Here, get more paint. We've got lots more paint to use.
It's been our perception that reunification with birth family always outweighs the bond of a foster family. And I don't know that that's always the best opinion. If a baby has never been with its biological family, if it's gone straight from the hospital to a foster home as Eva did, then we're not disrupting their past, really. You know, it's more disruptive for them to leave the foster home because that's the only home they've ever known. At social services, you know, it seems that their primary objective is to reunify with family, whether the child has ever known that family or not. I really just think that there need to be maybe less standardized rules, and each social worker needs to be allowed the freedom to truly evaluate the case on an individual basis in the best interest of that child. They're forced to make decisions that may not be best for the children, but they're the best options they have available. You know, in my heart, I want her to be mine, and she's mine always. But that was a decision that was made, that was taken out of my control, and I have to learn to accept it, because otherwise I can't be a good mother to the children I do have.
Well,
Well, my husband and I have adopted 5 children. Our first one was domestic. We had never, nor would we ever at the time, have considered international because we, like many people, thought there's all these children here in the U.S. But at the other hand, there's also the birth parent advocates who want to make sure that every avenue has been pursued to try and reunify that child with their original birth mother or father or birth family before they're willing to allow an outsider to adopt the child. In my opinion, to the point of destruction of the child.
We're trying to get biological families up to minimal standard of care. And that may not be your standard of care or my standard of care, but minimal standard of care.
You know, one of the things that really kind of makes me sad is that there's so many kids growing up without families, and there's families that would take them, but there just comes a point when it's just ridiculous.
Given the circumstances, the government is doing the best that they can. And you're asking the government to be a parent, and the government is not a parent and can't perform the duties of a parent. So basically, we're doing something that's not natural. To remove kids from their parents and then find them alternative parents, it's not very natural.
Part of me is thinking, okay, you know, you want me to open up my life, fine. And the other part of me is like, you guys don't even want these kids. Unfortunately, I think it discourages a lot of people from pursuing it.
We could be going on fancy vacations. We could live in a much fancier house. I could drive a fancier car. I mean, I'm driving a beat-up 15-passenger van. But I don't think those things would make me happy.
We have beautiful children right here in our U.S., absolutely beautiful children. And I always try and encourage families to look at every avenue before they decide how to adopt. But I do believe that when I'm older and have less responsibilities here at home with my kids, I am going to become an advocate for system change in the U.S. because I think it's needed.
I think being around children every day, raising them, getting to see their hearts and watch them grow up with their own personalities. Most of my kids talking about adopting when they grow up. I think that says, you know, it's been a positive experience for them.
As much as losing Eva did hurt, I would never, ever wish that we hadn't had her in our home. The experience of loving her tenfold made up for the pain.